I don't think Viktor Frankl's story is so much about the subconscious. I think that definitely plays a role in it. His story is about the meaning that you give to things. So, for example, like, he was in the concentration camp and he was talking about how he would think about things and how he would see things and what they meant and all of those things, right? And I think like these are very Islamic principles, by the way, in terms of how you think about the situations that are happening. And I think the best example of people is actually the people of Gaza right now. If you look at what they're going through and you look at their mindsets, you realize that like Viktor Frankl is nothing compared to them. Really, really like amazing mindsets that they have. A lot of people have actually talked about this, that the subconscious mind is actually very, very powerful. And it's quite, it makes sense, right? Because if you think about your body right now, the conscious part of your body that you have control over is actually very limited compared to what your body is. So for example, you have hands, right? And you have like a tongue and you have eyes and a mouth and all of this, right? Like even right now, if I said to you without touching yourself, move your ears, like this part of your ears, you don't even have control without hands to be able to move this, right? So what you physically have control over is actually like 8-10 things or whatever, right? But internally, the stuff that's subconsciously being controlled is insane. Like we're talking about cell reproduction, we're talking about your intestines, we're talking about filtration, we're talking about the production of different chemicals, hormone balances, your brain, your this, your that. Like the level of subconscious stuff that's happening in your body right now is insane compared to like what you actually consciously control. And so a lot of people, they say the mind is the same, where when it comes to your thoughts and your this and that, like a lot of it is all conscious, but the stuff happening below the surface, the subconscious stuff, that's actually very powerful and that affects you a lot. This is why I think that's the case. But I remember yesterday I was listening to this on the Sheikh Muttasim Al-Hamidi. He's a really good speaker, mashallah. I listened to a lot of his stuff. And he was saying, he was summarizing the book by Ibn al-Qayyim, rahimahullah. He said, The Disease and the Cure. And in that, he was saying that when it comes to, like, Ibn al-Qayyim gives the example of the body, that when you have your body, for example, if you want the body to be, like, really, really good, the first thing is, like, around what your body is consuming. So whatever it consumes, it will actually affect it. So he was saying, like, the consumption of it makes a big difference. And then he was saying another thing is, so one thing is like consuming good things, and then another part of it is restricting bad things, because you could consume good things and you could consume bad things, right? So he was saying like the key is to consume good things and then to restrict bad things. And then the third thing he was saying is that if there are things that naturally are in the body which are detrimental or negative, getting those out as well. And so he was saying it's the same with when it comes to the purification of the soul and all these kind of things. And so I think when it comes to subconscious, it's still about these core things, which is what are the things that you're letting into your mind? What are the things that you are stopping from coming into your mind? And what are the things that you're kind of releasing? And I think a lot of the time, I think the subconscious mind especially, most of it will be to do with the exposure that you give it. Same with the body. Whatever you expose the body to, it's going to over time have that kind of impact on it. So for me, it just goes back to the basics again. That subconsciously, if you want to improve subconsciously, it's about consciously taking in the right stuff. It's about consciously stopping the wrong stuff entering your mind. So for example, like when you first boot up your computer, when you first start your own mind in the morning, like what do you give it? What do you give it? I have this thing on my app now, on my phone. When I pick up the phone, on the iPhone, it says, first pick up is the Quran. Because like I always use my phone, I use the Quran on there. So it's telling me that the first thing you always do on your phone is pick up the Quran. So subconsciously, it's just saying, look, this is what you always do, this is what you're going to do. So I think it's the same thing with us. Like if you do this, where every day, like when you start your computer up in the morning, when you start your brain up, and your natural thing is to just read the words of Allah or listen to Allah's words or pray to Allah or do something like this, and then you do that consistently for a while and time again, eventually it becomes subconscious. Does that make sense? And that's why they have this whole thing around there's actually a very deep model for this, saying that, for example, it starts with unconsciously incompetent. So imagine when I'm a kid, I don't even know what a car is. I can't drive a car, I'm incompetent. But also, I'm even unaware. So I'm unaware and I'm incompetent, okay? Then I get older and I see, my dad drives a car. So then I'm kind of like aware that, like, you can drive a car, but I can't drive a car. So I'm aware, but I'm incompetent. Then you become competent. But eventually, like when you first start driving, you're learning to drive, you start to drive, and then eventually you become subconsciously competent where you don't even realize that you drove home. Like sometimes I'll drive a car, I don't even remember the journey. Because it's not like I used to be where I'm like, okay, I need to press the gear, I need to indicate. It's just subconsciously happening. And this is what I'm saying, that a lot of the people that they train in like Navy SEALs and Army and all these kind of guys, they just do the same thing over and over again until it becomes instinctive. And subconsciously, they're just competent in doing that whole thing. And so what I'm saying to you is that anytime anyone wants to build anything subconsciously, I think the start of it is actually doing it consciously, repetitively as much as you can as well.